As Housing First becomes more and more recognized as an effective and humane approach to homelessness, questions arise about exactly what does it mean, how does it work, and can I do it in my community? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Housing First, a definition of it, and look at all those kinds of questions. We do know this, that Housing First means doing things differently. For too long in the homelessness sector, we've had to rely on emergency services to deal with homelessness, and in many cases, we've worked ourselves into a situation where we assume that people have to be made ready to get housing, either by dealing with their mental health issues first or their addictions issues. Housing First takes a different approach and says, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Everybody deserves housing, it's a right, and in fact, people's recovery can improve once they have housing. It's actually the experience of being homelessness that may exacerbate the mental health and addictions issues. The underlying principle of Housing First is that people move forward in their lives more successfully if they have housing first. This is as true for you and me as it is for somebody who experiences homelessness. And so we really have to consider that as a radical change in terms of how we deal with this issue. People need to be housed, and they also need supports that they determine are necessary in order to get there. Often people think about Housing First as simply taking people and dumping them into housing in the suburbs, isolated, without supports, and that this is hardly a way to address the needs of any person. But in fact, Housing First is a very well thought out process and approach that ensures that people do get the kinds of supports that they need. Housing First as an approach goes way back, and in fact there's examples of Housing First-like programs in Canada that go back to the 1980s. But it was really the work of Samson Barris, who is Canadian, mind you, who worked at the Pathways program in New York City, who really put Housing First on the map. That program outlined the first core principles of Housing First, developed the methodology and the philosophy, and really moved forward in making Housing First an approach that was evidence-based and showed that we can really deal with homelessness in this new kind of way. And the evidence-based aspect is really important. We can't just come up with solutions and assume that they're okay because we think they're okay. We need to know that these things work. And one of the great things about Housing First is, as an intervention in homelessness, it is one of the best documented interventions that there is. The body of evidence that shows that Housing First works is overwhelming. The recent At Home Shaswa project in Canada, which is the largest project on Housing First ever done, shows conclusively that it works. That you can take the most hardcore, chronically homeless person with complex mental health issues and addictions issues, and you put them in housing, and you know what? Not only do they stay housed, they do better. We have to stop thinking that chronically homeless people want to be homeless or that they can't be housed, because the evidence is there. The debate is now over. Housing First works.